Yo, now what's up gang, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your boy V Dollar back in today's video. It's late, so we are going to be doing some analysis. Okay, this analysis is basically way too easier for you guys to really understand how I go about this. You guys know I do trend lines, I do break and retest, so all that is all going to be in, and this time around I shall use the moving averages because this really works. Okay, so we are going to be analyzing JPY, JPY, US30 and some other pairs in there. So you guys can also join our main Telegram community. The link is in the description below. As you guys can see, we do share trades there daily, so you can always win with us literally daily by joining the Telegram channel. The link is in the description below. So we are going to slide into this video. Remember, we are going to be doing analysis using the break and retest strategy, doing trend lines, and we shall later have to do the moving averages in the same video. So you know this is lit. Okay, so let's slide into it. Now for the break and retest strategy, we are going to be looking at trending markets only. Okay, we don't consider again maybe consolidation or markets that are a bit sketchy. Okay, so basically we are going to be looking at such trends. Let's say if it's an uptrend, of course we'd be expecting this. So this is what we would be looking at for the break and retest strategy for the uptrend, and then for the downtrend, of course, we expect a clear downtrend. Okay, we shouldn't go for sketchy moves where maybe we don't establish the real exact market movements. Okay, that's the first thing. Now what happens now? Remember sometime back, in this strategy we are going to be using trend lines, so that's why I had to combine the trend lines with the break and retest strategy. Now in this particular case, let's say we draw a trend line right here. Okay, a quick one, let me do some adjustment. So if we draw a trend line around here, and then we also draw a trend line around here, there we go. Now what do we expect? Now let's say we broke the trend line and we are going to downside, so we would break the trend line. Okay, and then we have our previous level here too, and so I marked out this level here because it was a previous support level. Okay, so just in case it's broken also, it means now we are seeing a push to downside. Now after pushing to downside, what do we expect? Now we would expect a pullback. Okay, now this is not a normal pullback, this is a pullback but back to a previous key level. Remember, this trend line was previous a key level, so we are going to come back for a pullback and then now shoot to the downside. Okay, that's basically what's happening in a push to the downside. Okay, now let's do one for the uptrend. So let's say we have two trend lines and we are going to upside. So here's what we expect. We are pushing up, coming back for a pullback, pushing up. Okay, this is a trending market to upside, and then boom, we break this region, we break the trend line, and then we definitely have to come back for a pullback, but then now to this key level, this is a retest, and then boom, shoot the upside. So it's the same thing basically even for the downtrend. Okay, for a trending market to downside, it's literally the same thing. It's the same thing that we just have to look at. Boom to downside. Okay, coming back, pushing down, coming back, pushing down, and then let's say we break back to the upside, and then obviously you have to come back for a retest at this point. Okay, and then boom, we are in right to the upside. Basically that's how it works. Now we shouldn't try to trade the break and retest strategy on consolidating markets. Let's say we have an example of when it's consolidating, it's a bit hard, though it's also possible. Let's say we are just trading in between these two horizontal lines. So of course we have such a structure. Now we would expect maybe to break above, come back for a pullback, push the upside. That would be a reversal, right? Actually we are now breaking this trend line, these horizontal lines. Either way we could expect something of this sort, come back for a retest and push it downside. So it's also possible on consolidating markets, but I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, so let's dive into the markets and see what we were trying to explain. So we have a GBP JPY on the hourly, so let's try on the daily and first have a clear look at something real quick here. Okay, now this is the daily time frame. Now we had drawn a trend line already. We had a lower trend line drawn. You guys can see this clear trend line right here. This is the trend line, right? So we can see that we are bouncing off the trend line multiple times, okay? Now at this point again, we expected ourselves to bounce off the trend line, right? Because that's what has been happening. Now, by this time now, we saw something different rather. Instead of bouncing off the trend line, we saw a break of this trend line. Now, let's scale down to a smaller time frame and see how this looked like. Okay, now we are going to start off with the 4 hour, and boom, this is how we looked like. You guys can see that. So you can see that on the 4 hour, this is actually the point we were considering at the moment. This is the point here. We expected the market, of course, to push back up because it's the same norm that we have been seeing on the trend line. You can see that whenever we hit the trend line, we bounce off back to the upside, like that, like that, like that. But at this point now, this thing didn't actually happen. Now what happened rather was, I can see that we broke the structure, we broke our trend line and came back for a pullback, and we are now going to downside clearly. Now let's try to check this on a smaller time frame. On the M15, I can trust that. I can trust the trend line that we drew. Awesome. Now this is on the hourly, and this is the point right here. You guys understand what I was trying to say? Now check this out. So you can see that now we broke the structure. Sorry, we broke our trend line, and that's a structure actually. And we have come back for a pullback. Now this is not a normal pullback, this is a pullback to our trend line. So we call it a retest because we are retesting a key level, and now we are going to a downside, okay? Easy, right? You guys can really get my point. So that's how this basically really works, okay? Now, I had a horizontal line drawn. I have this horizontal line here drawn. I can redraw it again. There we go. So this is going to be my first profit target. Why? Because it was the previous support region some time back. So I would expect, of course, some market reaction when we hit this level, right? And then on placing my stop loss, I would place my stop loss pretty probably around here. Why? Because it's above a key level, a key structure. This level was being broken and it was retested, so that's why I would place my stop loss, and that would be a safer region. Okay, now let's go to another pair. Like I said, we can actually check US 30, so we can have a look together. So let's check if we do have a few trend lines to look at. Boom, there we go. This is how we are looking like. We had actually analyzed US 30 some time back, and you guys can see it has been really working out well for us. Now we have this one right here. So we had this trend line. There we go. We had this trend line right here. Now you guys can see that we had a first, of course, market reactions right here. We reached a trend line and had to bounce back down, and then we also had a very strong reaction at this point. You guys can see we had three market reactions, and then we had our last ones around here. Okay, now why do you expect? Because now we can see that the market is pushing to the upside. So here's what happened. So at this level, okay, we had to break the trend line, and now came back for a retest, and boom, we are now pushing to the upside. You guys really get my point? That's how easy this strategy is. It's basically something really so easy. Let's go to hourly. Boom, a clear retest. Now remember, I had drawn this line here when we are bouncing off our trend line, of course, we expect two things. We expect to trend back to the upside or to the downside, depending on the current market behavior. So at this point, we had this trend line. Since it was being respected multiple times, we had a trend line of this sort. It was being respected multiple times. So my expectation was, if we break above, we are going to break above and then come back for retest and push the upside. Or if we don't break above, of course, we have to come back to the downside, right? So we had two assumptions in here, and we definitely had to take one of the two. So this is how basically we really played out. So you can see that we broke the trend line and then came back for a retest, and now we are pushing to the upside. Now at this point, we are basically going to be looking for trades to the upside. We are looking for buys only on US 30 for now, until we hit our level here that I'd actually drawn out some time back. So if I was to draw out maybe a few key levels here, so I would expect maybe a small pullback right here at the point of exhaustion. Now I'll take my buy in. Okay, you guys get my concept. So that's how the break and retest strategy really works. You have to combine this with trend lines. Okay, with trend lines, you'd get perfect results straight up, no gains in here. Okay, now I wanted to tell you about moving averages. Remember, now moving averages can also sort of help you to get the real confluence, because at the end of the day, you really need to get the right entry points, the exact time to get in, and all that. Okay, now the trend lines really help us on finding out those levels. Now we use the 25 and the 20 moving averages, like sometime we had discussed, and we are just looking at the crossovers. When we see a crossover, we are definitely getting a trade straight up in. Okay, so basically that's what I wanted to share with you. For the moving average strategy, you guys can really check the video that I've actually tagged here, and that's how you will actually get access to the moving average strategy. So I will see you guys soon. I'm out for now.